don't let anyone fucking make you feel bad about it, whatever your work schedule is, because you're doing what's right for you and what's right for your family. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to day 13 of the 30-day challenge inside the Uncaged free group. Very excited to have you. We're going to be talking about sleep, and I know this probably sounds like the most boring thing to talk about, but when you start to really unpack the effects that having positive sleep patterns and having, just really putting a focus on this and how it's able to affect you both personally and professionally. Again, that's why we're here. And, I should have made, efficiencies and efficiency strategies like a 10-day instead of a 5-day window, because it seems like that's what all this kind of goes back to. But I wanted to re-echo the fact that I promise you guys I've been spending so much time figuring out how do I operate more efficiently. Like, I've been on this journey for about 18 months now, and so a lot of this is information that I have found both from testing it personally, and again, I'm one person, it might work differently for you, but it's at least a starting point and a launch pad for you to go figure out what works best for you. And I'll be 100% honest, it was our expert call that we had in VIP with Dr. Alex Spinoso, who is also in the VIP group, another doctor in the VIP group, and he was talking about the effectiveness of having good sleep inside of how it controls anything else that you're doing. And this is a guy that runs a $100 million a year business, right? So when you start to really pay attention to how these guys operate, and you see guys that are running $100 million a year businesses being very, very mandatory on getting 8 hours of sleep, there's a lot, and they're a doctor, you at least listen. I at least listened, and I at least went and did my own research to kind of compare against him. And part of it is like, man, like for me, I hate getting sick. When I get sick, I don't get sick often, but when I do, I go down hard. And when I go down hard, everything comes to a screeching halt. And so that's why in health, that's some of the supplementation that I take, some of the things that I focus on in my diet and specific, rules that I have about what I eat and how I eat it and how everything goes into that. But part of this is like, what's really interesting is for most of the statistics that you'll see, it'll say 6 to 7 hours or less or over 8 hours. So we're going to just kind of use that as a solid rule of thumb, is that, if you're getting less than 7 hours or that 6 to 7 hour mark, you will start to see some of these effects. Whereas, obviously less than that, it becomes more and more detrimental in comparison to people that get more than 8 hours of sleep. But when it comes to like getting sick, man, I hate it. It's a miserable feeling for me, not only in the way that I feel physically, but mentally it attacks me, because I almost blame myself, because to a certain degree, there's things that we could be doing to have prevention set in place so that this does not happen. And sleep being one of the most important ones. In fact, you're actually 3 times more likely to get sick when you aren't getting those optimal 8 hours of sleep. And so like for me, I was like, all right, problem solution. Like, what's the problem? I hate getting sick. What's the solution? How do we make sure we're getting 8 hours of sleep a night? I use a sleep tracker on my phone. I use my Apple Watch to track my sleep every night. And I would say I'm about 98%, consistent with that. And, the inconsistencies come just from when my watch dies and I either don't have enough time or I've set it on the charger, but I've actually fallen asleep before it was fully charged and I could put it on. But I actively track this literally almost every night. I would say probably 28, 29 nights out of the month, because I want to be cognizant of my health, and specifically not my health, not just how I feel, but what it does, what it produces. With me having 3 times likely more chance of getting sick, that's detrimental to the progress that I'm making, especially in these flow states and these sprints that I have. So it's absolutely imperative that I do that. Not only that, is like when it comes to mental health, and mental health being such a huge focus inside of Uncaged, and so much awareness that we're being brought around here, because life life's fucking hard as men. We're told to shut the fuck up, toughen up, don't talk about our feelings, don't be emotional, and just go about your fucking life, bro. And I'm here to say that it's been awesome to see inside of Uncaged that that's not the way that we operate. Like, we are very big on being open and honest and talking about the hard shit. And, a part of that is depression and anxiety. Believe it or not, like, people are 10 times more likely to become depressed when they are suppressing their sleep, right? If you're getting that less than 6 to 7 hours of sleep or less than 8 hours of sleep, you're 10 times more likely to become depressed, right? Why would you roll the dice on that? Not only that, like anxiety, anxiousness, you're 17 times, more likely to be riddled with anxiety is like the way I talk about it, because I fucking hate anxiety that much. I've been through it, done that, got the t-shirt for depression, anxiety. It's not something that I ever want to go back to, right? And so, especially as entrepreneurs, when we find ourselves operating at such a high level, and maybe you're a high achiever, right? You're in sales, you're in marketing, whatever, you're in management, just these peak performing positions where you're dealing with so much stress on a daily basis that isn't controllable with sleep. The beautiful thing about this is when you get that optimal 8 hours of sleep, there is a 50% swing in your ability to handle that stress than if you didn't get the optimal amount of sleep. So think about that. Like, it's a 50% swing. So like, why would you, especially if you knew that you had a high stress job, why would you not want to come into that as prepared as possible? And it's stuff like this that is very, very near and dear to my heart when it comes to like understanding this. Not only that, when you are in your day to day, I talk a lot about being in flow state. When you're not getting optimal amounts of sleep, that cognitive function decreases by 20 to 30%. So here we are. I'll just use the averages. The average 45 minutes it takes someone to get into flow state. You spend 45 minutes of your day in this specific task to get into flow state. And you're here, you're going through the 30-day challenge, so it's top of mind awareness. You're like, all right, cool. Zach talked about this. We're in flow state. Here we go. We're getting work done. But you've now, because you didn't focus on your sleep, you're only operating, you're operating 20 to 30% less than what you could be. So now you start to shift your mind and putting such a priority on your sleep because you want that extra 20 to 30%, right? We've talked about this. We've talked about the things that can come in and try and steal your efficiencies away. We spent, at this point, the last week talking about things that are actively targeting your efficiency, which is robbing you from your future version of yourself. That dream life that you wrote about, it's robbing you from getting there sooner because of little things like not getting enough sleep. Because again, I hate hustle culture. I see these business owners all the time beating their chest, bragging like, oh, I got 12 hours of sleep. Or I got 12 hours of work done today. Well, I got 14. Well, I got 16. Well, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots, right? Again, and don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on anyone specifically, and I've been there. I've done that. I got the t-shirt. I had to learn the hard way. I was probably getting sick more often. I was probably 10 times and 17 times more depressed and liable to become anxious, right? But I went through that and I've learned that. And like, I wish someone had told me this kind of stuff sooner, because it's this kind of stuff that I resonate with. Because I've been depressed. I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't want to go down a depressive route again. Man, I've fucking been riddled with anxiety. So here we are again, right? Not only that, like, shit comes at you sideways. In work, you've got these stresses that are uncontrollable. We talk about controlling the controllables. It's uncontrollable when you get thrown curveballs. But what is controllable is being more prepared, which is having that 8 hours sleep. So now that has a 50% less, hit on you. You got a 50% stronger ability to take on those curveballs and come out the other side being unscathed. And so it's strategies like that we got to focus on. It's stuff like that I need you to start understanding, like, what affects your sleep in a negative way. We talked about it, previously about your evening routine being like the importance of your evening routine. In fact, I'm looking at my calendar right now. I have my evening routine set up for the next day because that next day is what sets me up for success, right? And so, in part of this, it's like, how do we get a strong enough sprint in those couple of hours, hour and a half that you're doing your nightly routine to get you prepared for the next morning, which is going to allow you to reap the benefits of all of this. And I can't remember exactly. We talked about it in one of the roundtable calls, and I haven't done the research on it yet. It was literally like in the last week or two. I can't remember who said it. And it is something that I want to do my research on. I actually had a conversation the next day with Heather in driving home from the gym. And it was funny because it's called like a 3-2-1 rule or something like that. And do not hold me to it. If you know what this 3-2-1 rule is, please leave it in the comments on the homework thread. But I believe it's like no food 3 hours before bed, no blue light 2 hours before bed, and then something else like within 1 hour of bed. And it's stuff like this that starts to, again, I haven't done all the research to this yet, so don't hold me to it, but it is something that is, I want to be focused on because like I know, I literally track my sleep. And when I track my sleep, for me, I start to be able to see like, when did I get, restful sleep? When did I get REM sleep, right? And when I start to go through this, I start to really focus in on like, okay, how can I get better? It's even showing me how I'm breathing, stuff like that, right? Like, so I've got this thing. It tells me how much sleep I've got, what my score is, my 3-day score. It tells me how much restful sleep I got, how much restless sleep I got, what my sleep rhythm was, what my heart rate was, what my sleep disruption was. And it's things like this where now because what gets measured gets managed. I am measuring this stuff because now I say, all right, cool, I'm getting disrupted quite a bit. What is that? How can I control that? Is it a sound that I'm hearing, while I'm asleep? Is it one of the animals? Is it Lottie getting up? Is it a nightmare? Okay, I'm getting nightmares. What is it that's causing these nightmares? What is it that I'm not applying to my evening routine that's, and I don't know this. This is how my brain works. So I don't know. Is there a way to control nightmares and cause less and less of them? Cross-country wellness, I take the CBD and CBN gummies before I go to bed because I found out that I tested it. I sleep better when I take those. I get more restful sleep than when I don't take them. And so I get made fun of all the time because I sleep with breathe right strips on my nose because it allows me to breathe better. It allows more oxygen into my body, which helps get me to that restful sleep more. What else do I do? The colder you are, and I don't know what level it is, but I know like I sleep with as little blankets as possible because the colder the environment is, especially for me, it gets me into a tighter sleep because, my body is, working harder to keep me warm. I believe that's the science to it. Stu, correct me if I'm wrong. Please call me out on that. But it's stuff like this that I am starting to pay more and more attention to. And it started with baby steps. It started with me just tracking my sleep. What gets measured gets managed. So I'm tracking my sleep. I'm saying, all right, cool. I went to bed at this time. I woke up at this time and I'm a little bit drowsy. Let's see if I can beat that time. Here we are back beating the GPS, right? So I was going to sleep earlier and earlier, or maybe even sleeping in a little bit later to kind of find that sweet spot that worked for me in my life in this phase that we're in this chapter of our life that we're in, and with having a wife and a daughter that I want to spend time with. This is what worked best for me. And then it took me down all right, cool. What different types of gummies can I have? What kind of nose strip, this, that, whatever. And part of the psychology here that I want to share with you is the same thing that I talked about when we were talking with Stu. When I mentioned that is for me as a business owner, me getting a more efficient night of sleep translates into higher revenues, stronger profit margins, more reoccurring revenue, things of that nature. And so, like, for me, a lot of people come out here and want to focus on how much time they can cram in to this hustle culture because they want to make a fucking status about it on Facebook and brag about how little amount of sleep they got or how much work they got or how they want it harder than you because they made so many sacrifices when they're shooting themselves in their foot. They're getting sick. They're not operating as optimal as possible. They're in a depressive state of mind. They're riddled with anxiety. They aren't able to handle the stresses of work at that 50% growth level because they didn't get proper amounts of sleep. You know, I see it all the time. It's always funny because you see these guys on social media, again, that are bragging about this like hustle culture shit that they're doing. And then the next day, you see a status where they're talking about how defeated they were, right? But, how they overcame it. Like, this is the lesson that I learned through this devastating situation. But it probably wouldn't have hit you that fucking hard, dog, if you had been focused on your efficiencies, put your ego aside and not worried about how you can brag on social media about how you just fucking work 22 hours a day. And focus on your sleep and focus on being more efficient. Like, I went there. I went through that. I got the t-shirt again. And I'm hoping, I wish that someone taught me this a lot more soon than Alex Spinoza's expert call about a year ago or whenever that was. So, like, this is your sign. I don't care who you talk to. I don't know, start following some of Dr. Alex Spinoza's content. Hit up Stu Segura, hit up Jeff G. These are guys that spend a lot of time and are way smarter than I am on the efficiencies that come out of having proper sleep, all the way down to, again, how you, like, I sleep, Heather hates me, but we sleep without blinds because the natural light coming in and waking me up in a more natural way instead of being scared awake and instantly thrown into a jolt of anxiety because of an alarm. Right? My body wakes me up, right? And it's a more efficient way of waking up and becoming more optimal as far as your day-to-day because it's, again, we have our strong evening routines because that evening routine is what sets you up for the next day, which gives you the opportunity to launch off a strong morning routine. And if you don't have that, like, you're going to be you're behind the 8 ball. So here, start studying what it can do for you when you start getting more sleep, when you start being more mindful about how you get. And I don't care if you're going to bed at 8:30 and waking up at 4 a.m. or whatever the math is there. Some of y'all, your lifestyle, unfortunately, right now, maybe you have to be going to bed at midnight and waking up and sleeping in until 8. I don't know what that looks like. Don't let anyone fucking make you feel bad about it, whatever your work schedule is, because you're doing what's right for you and what's right for your family. All right, and for the homework, it's very, very simple. As you can see on your screen, we're going to simply write down what the date was, what time you went to bed, what time you woke up, and then you're going to track your energy levels, both in the morning, afternoon, as well as the evening. So from a scale of 1 to 10, or 0 to 10 rather, 0 being horrible, 10 being incredible, you're going to go through this and add them up and keep track of this. That way, what we're starting to see is when this circadian rhythm starts to kick in, how it affects you throughout the length of your day and how you're able to maintain energy levels. So use this document, write it down on your own, notebook, use an app to track it, whatever the case is. And obviously, don't forget to buy some gummies. So I hope this helped. I hope you got something out of it. Jump into the chat thread that's on the homework thread. Let's talk about it. What are you doing? What could you improve in? What hacks do you have? I'm here to learn from you. I hope you're here to learn from me. Everyone else is going to come in. We're going to brainstorm this. We're going to figure out how we can get you immediately on the right track with sleeping better. And again, just as a reminder, I know it's not about sleep. It's about how you wake up, but stop fucking hitting the snooze button. We'll see you tomorrow.